Leicester were a major part of and were 2-0 up 20 seconds into the second half. But ultimately Mateta twice came back to hurt them, and in the end, in the sunshine, they'll be left to rue what might have been. Very competitive and excellent for the most part, Leicester, but that search for the first win will go on at full time at Selhurst Park. It's Palace 2, Leicester 2.
Thank you very much, Chris. Yes, welcome to the Matchday live studio here on Fox's Hub. Following Leicester City's 2-2 draw there away, as we were hearing at Crystal Palace. I'm Dan Bates, Mark Albrighton and Jerry Taggart are alongside me here in the studio. Matt Elliott will be with us. He's still going to be at Selhurst Park to assess that draw, which really, gents, so very could well have been a victory, couldn't it? Really, you know, heading into injury time, 2-1 up, they'll be really disappointed.
I think that's it. I think, like you can say, yeah, we'd have probably been happy with a point before the game. But when you get yourself in a position of a 2-goal advantage, it's always going to be disappointing, and to concede late on is obviously very disappointing. But I think I'm gutted for them because they deserve that on the way that they played today, the way that they played against Villa, and that second half at Tottenham. The work rate, the effort that they put into everything has been second to none so far, and if that's Steve Cooper that's at the sort of forefront of that, if he's the one that's driving that, then it's a sign of good things to come, because performances like that and an effort like that will go a long way this season in getting results and getting the fans behind the players, and that's ultimately what we all want to see. Yeah,
Matt Elliott, you're still with us in the press box. You can see Steve Cooper. We're seeing the pictures now. He's going over to that away end and applauding him alongside a number of his players as well. The reception seems good. Those fans will just be so disappointed they couldn't hold on.
Yeah, listen, overall I think it's a very positive afternoon. As Mark just said there, the performance, it showed good resilience despite conceding late on at the end, but throughout there was a real sort of determination about their play and a purpose about them, and that's encouraging to see. That we've seen in the opening 3 games that they can compete, but then today that they looked up for the challenge. That they were playing as if they believed they were at the very least on par with this Crystal Palace outfit, who are relatively established. They've had their scares throughout recent seasons, but relatively established, certainly with previous managers in the Premier League. To come here, it's quite hostile, etc. that we mentioned. There was a good togetherness about the players. They quietened the crowd for large parts of the game. Showed some good quality at moments, some good togetherness, unbelievable application, some individuals in particular. You have to take it overall. Yes, it's frustrating, isn't it? You're 2-0 up at a stage in the game. You want to bag the 3 points, and the difference between 1 and 3 is huge at any stage of the season, isn't it, in the Premier League? But I have to be honest, I suppose overall, you look at it, and it's probably about a fair result. I don't know, because we're willing and we're wanting and we're wishing Leicester to get the 3 points. But Palace had a fair amount of the game without really causing any direct problems to Hermansen. But I don't think that Conor Cody's going to be absolutely gutted. Of course he is, as an individual. The team will be initially disappointed, but I think over time, as Chris mentioned on the commentary, they look at that and say, you know what, that wasn't a bad point overall and after all. And I hope that is the case.
Yeah, I think, any point away from home in this league, and especially with a newly promoted team, is a good point. I think the frustration obviously lies conceding straight after you go 2-0 up, and then obviously conceding again just in the injury time. But as Matt and Mark has already said, you've got to look at the game as a whole. You've got to look at some of the individual performances from some of the players this afternoon were quite incredible. And that shows me that Steve Cooper has got everybody on side, and everyone's trying to pull in the right direction. And hopefully in the near future, you'll see a game like that where Leicester get their noses in front and keep their noses in front. Today it just wasn't to be, for multiple reasons. But if you look at the first goal that they concede, straight after they take that second goal lead, that's probably the biggest turning point in the game, because that gives Palace that self-belief that they can get back into it. And then from there on in, Palace, I'm not saying they dominated, but they had the lion's share of possession. They were camped in Leicester's half for most of that second half. And in the end, it was just that constant pressure that was the difference. They didn't open Leicester up. They didn't, create mouth-watering, goal-scoring opportunities. But it was just the pressure, the constant pressure from Palace in the second half, from once they got that one goal back, that in the end Leicester just couldn't deal with that.
Yeah, they so nearly did though, didn't they? That's probably the
so
frustration.
Nearly means nothing, Dan. There's you either deal with it or you don't, and the consequence of that is you walk off the pitch with a 2-1 win, or you concede again, and unfortunately that's what happens. But again, that's a great learning curve for the players.
Yeah, it is. It is a good learning curve. Obviously, the hard way. And like Jerry says, you either deal with it or you don't. I think we nearly did. But we were still blocking shots, last ditch blocks, and I just think that I look at the goal scenario. I look at the tackle from Conor Cody, and that screams to me of a player that hasn't played a lot of football recently, because that's not him. We've seen him over years of playing Premier League football. That's not what he's about. Last ditch tackles like that, he's rash tackles. He's always so sort of organised, and how he plays, he's very in control of what he's doing. So he'll be bitterly disappointed with that. There'll be no one hurting us as much as him in that dressing room, and I'm gutted for him myself.
Yeah, Matt, I'm sure we'll see probably Conor Cody come out and speak, won't we, with the media. He's that type of character, isn't he? And he'll be really disappointed in himself. And you could tell the moment it happened, he just wanted the ground to open up and swallow him, didn't he? He was so gutted with what happened.
Yeah, it didn't even have cause for sort of complaint or to contest the decision, really, did it? It was clean cut. I'm sure it entered his mind for a fraction of a second, but wasn't to be. And then all of a sudden he would have been ruining his decision to make that lunge, wouldn't he? As Mark's just mentioned there, an element of rustiness maybe. Certainly you would consider that to be a factor. Hard coming into a game like that. I said about him being the ideal person really to slot in that back three, and obviously Steve Cooper thought similarly. Organising, just rally the troops a little bit, wouldn't he? Keep everyone on their toes to see it through for those last hard yards. But unfortunately for him, he's the individual that everyone's eyes are on, aren't they? And they look at it and go, "Oh, what were you thinking there?" I think he got unsettled a little bit with the fair play to Palace. They kept bombing forward. I think it was. I'm not sure who it was actually in the first challenge. They've gone in and they've sort of muscled into Conor, and he didn't sort of get his stature, his posture right, if you like, and he got sort of half bundled off the ball, and then as a consequence he wasn't in full control when he had the touch, and he's got slightly away from him because he was unbalanced, and then he's gone for the lunge. So it's like three little tiny things that weren't quite there when they normally would be from such an accomplished player, and it's just I don't know, not even necessarily a rash decision. It was just like an instant reaction. I'm going for this ball, and he probably, as he's doing it, he's probably thinking, I probably shouldn't be, but I'm still going to go. I've committed now. I've got to try and follow through, and I don't know. It feels terrible for him. Because he's obviously. I heard Mark speak about him. Numerous people. He's a hugely popular figure within the squad. Great professional. Loves the game. He'd be absolutely sick to the back of his teeth when of what's happened there. But he'll get over it. He's had lows before, and the lads the spirit they've shown today, that togetherness, that attitude and application together as a group. That I mentioned it in the first half. Vardy was clapping Ayew when he missed a great opportunity, and I was thinking Jamie might be giving him a rollicking, but he was supporting him, and so was Harry Winks. That was going on throughout the game, and it was good to see that. It's said to me that they're up for the challenge. They're in this together. They know it's going to be a long, hard season. They're going to have to be really durable, and they showed good signs of that today, but just couldn't hang on to get that victory. But yeah, listen, it's gone now in terms of Conor Cody's situation. Done and dusted. Move on to the next game, but with more confidence than they had before this game, I think.
Yeah, do you agree with that, Jerry, that because of the way that they did play, they can take that confidence?
Absolutely. I think there was some great performances today. And we spoke about this before the game. You know, there's going to be some disappointing games. There's going to be some disappointing results. But everybody has to keep pulling together. And that's exactly what the players showed today. Everyone was on the same page. Everybody was trying their heart out. You seen towards the end, you know, Jordan Ayew, Wilf, they were out on their feet. So you can't have anything but praise for the players today and the way they tried to go, you know, the way they tried to get over the line, and it just, like you said, it just wasn't enough for the 3 points to come away with a really credible point. But again, you know, as with the defender's head on, I'm just looking at, you know, some instances, and you're thinking, could we have done slightly better? And I'm nitpicking, I know, but that's what I do. That's what defenders do. They nitpick, and I'd say Conor Cody will be the first one, you know, to look at himself in that instance when he's made that challenge and just couldn't quite get there. The players will be frustrated in the dressing room because of the energy that they've expended, and we've already spoken about it's not an easy place, especially for Leicester to come and get any sort of result here. So it was never going to be an easy task. So I think overall, you know, you have to heap praise on the players and the manager and the fans.
Yeah, I think with, I know we spoke about before the game about Abdul disappointed he's not started and having to make sure that you pick yourself back up, and it's exactly the same in a collective situation here now. The way that we've lost the points there, we've lost the 2 points is like it's devastating at the minute. Right now, it feels like a defeat. However, they have to take so much confidence and heart from that performance, and that hasn't got to stop the result today. Hasn't got to stop them believing in what they can do, because if they play like that for the majority of the season or the whole of the season, they'll win the majority of the games that they'll need to win to stay in the Premier League. So it's disappointing right now. It'll be disappointing tomorrow, but ultimately back on the training pitch and carry on the things that they're doing, because you can see by watching the performance there that it's working.
There'll obviously naturally be that disappointment, as Marcus says, Jerry, for probably tonight, for probably tomorrow. Then they'll get into the training ground and they'll look back at the game and look at all the really good things that they did and still think, okay, there was 2 points extra there that they could have had, they didn't. But they can go into that Everton game in a week's time and think, play like we did today and we'll win that game.
Yeah, and that's down to the manager and the staff to quickly turn that disappointment back into making sure you feed them all the positives. Because there was a lot of positives today, a lot of positives. And, you know, if Leicester had won that game, no one would have been sat here saying, well, they've got away with one, they would have deserved it. But as it was, you've got to give credit to Palace for the way, you know, they came back at Leicester City in the second half. I don't know if the substitutions are he changed. Well, he changed the formation slightly, didn't he? The Palace manager in that second half, and it seemed to work for them. You know, they seemed to have lots of space in the wide areas. They were bombing the ball into the box constantly, and yeah, I think it was just a little bit of a struggle especially in the last quarter of the game, for Leicester to get any real foothold in the game and get any real quality possession and try and get Leicester further up the pitch.
Well, one thing they will definitely be pretty disappointed at, Matt, will just be the nature of how quickly their 2-goal lead became suddenly only a 1-goal lead. I think it was within a minute, wasn't it, of making it 2-0. Palace were right back in the game.
Yeah, and also, to sort of compound that disappointment, as I mentioned in the commentary, and Jerry touched on it as well, they would have been better off staying at 1-0 than 2-1, because 2-0, obviously you think, happy days, what a start to the second half, and a lesser team than Palace might be demoralised by that, but they were straight back at Leicester. Leicester switched off a little bit. It was too easily gained, that goal, which got them back in the hunt, but it got the fans back on side properly. They were up and roaring, and they're thinking, come on, they're cheering their team on and on and on till literally the final minute, as we saw. And that's a lot to deal with, for a side like Leicester, coming up. Every game's tough, closely fought, and you're almost not resigning yourself, but you're thinking, right, okay, so they're back in it now. We're going to have to deal with some weaponry for the next 15 minutes or so, and not really entertain going forward too much. It just sort of naturally does that to you. But 1-0, if they kept nullifying the opposition, then Palace might have thought, we're not getting much, making much headway here against these boys, and they keep nicking the ball off us in midfield, and they're probing runs and balls over the top. They're causing us problems. So negativity sort of creeps in, but that positivity crept in the other way, and they kept going and going at Leicester, didn't they? And Jerry's mentioned it again there, that last 20 minutes, even a half hour or so, you could say Leicester didn't have any sort of real control of the ball, and when they did have an opportunity, players were a little bit tired or made the wrong decisions. So I think Steve Cooper will look at that as well, how they can relieve the pressure for themselves, but still be proud of their efforts defensively. But it's schoolboy error, isn't it? I mean, how many times all three of us, and yourself, Dan, I'll include you, whatever level of football you played, you say, switch on as soon as you don't concede, after scoring. And teams at all sorts of levels still guilty of it, aren't they? Whether that's basking in the glory of scoring, or they think it's easy now and I would just have a little stroll around, you switch off, whatever it is. It was too easy for Palace to get themselves right back in the hunt. Yeah, I think that would be definitely mentioned in the post-match inquisition.
Yeah, I think as well, if we're looking at positives, there's so many. I thought Oliver Skipp today, he was probably my man of the match. I think he was absolutely superb in everything that he did. Jordan Ayew again, brilliant. I thought he was great. Steffi Mavadidi comes straight in, gets himself a goal, looked a threat at times. Akoli at the back was brilliant again. James Justin, brilliant again. So all over the pitch there was top performances. So these players, they can take a lot of confidence, and we need to, when we get the disappointments like today's result, how it feels. We need to focus on them positives and build from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think again, there's a lot more positives than there was negatives today, but
just the nature of being 2-0 up makes it
well,
seem
I think
the other way,
if you analyse every game Leicester have played in this season, there's goals that they've conceded that they could do better. And Matt speaks about one of the cardinal sins in football is conceding right after you've scored. And it's one of the oldest cliches you'll ever hear in football about you're at your most vulnerable after you've scored. But it just shows that it's still, and I'm sure the lads will have heard this saying ring round in the dressing rooms where they've been at, but it still happens. It's still happening. Now again, fair play to Villa. Mateta was a thorn today. He's a big, strong, quick lad, and he makes the right kind of runs. But is there an opportunity for Leicester to deal with that better straight after they've scored? I would say the answer to that is yes, but those are questions that Steve Cooper will have, will get his players to answer and move forward in a positive fashion, because that was probably the best performance I've seen all season.
Yeah, it's one of those. I mean, you don't know. You never played under Steve Cooper, of course, but you don't know whether in that dressing room he's going to be angry at his players. Is he going to be pleased with his players? It's difficult to tell, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's difficult to tell. We don't know what kind of manager he is behind closed doors. My guess would that he'd be very pleased and reinforce how pleased he is with the performance. But then at the same time, I have no doubt that he will be picking the little things that we've just spoke about. Can the positioning be better at the first goal that we concede? Can we sort of tighten things up a little bit there? At different other parts, I'm sure that he'll be looking into detail at that, and looking at them small details and passing that message on. That's his job to do that, and I have no doubts that he will be doing that.
I think he understands better than anybody, Dan, that it's a work in progress, and he has to give the players time to adjust, gel, whatever it takes. So I think in the back of his mind, although he'll be frustrated and disappointed with the way they've conceded, he'll understand that, you know, they are where they are for a reason. But there's some really good positive signs coming out, and we've seen that all season. We've seen that in every game, but today was, as you said, was oh so nearly.
Oh, so nearly. Matt, I mean, it makes you look ahead naturally to that game in a week's time, doesn't it, at King Power Stadium against Everton? That will be massive. Everton themselves play later on. It's Aston Villa, I think it is, isn't it? So they've got a relatively tough away game against Villa, and then they come here. So that's a massive game already next weekend.
Yeah, this is a game at any stage of the season. It's huge, isn't it? All worth the same amount of points, but I get your drift there. And also, it could turn this result into an even better one if they get a positive at home. Pick up the 3 points there. This draw looks even better than it does, or certainly better than it does right now, because the boys have said it's always like chins on the floor a bit. But then you got to remind yourself that you've got the point, all the positives we've spoken about individually, collectively. I think that was an upgrade from what we've seen previously in terms of sort of confidence and positivity. And if they can go and improve on that, you just asked Mark there the question about the manager. I think he'll be as happy as you can be to get a point, but with that big tinge of frustration. But he'll use that in a positive way. I think take it into the week and go, right, come on then, boys, if we can just tighten up on this and that, and then add a little bit, because we're at home and expect to maybe take the game to Everton a little bit more. You still got to be wary. They've got their threats. They've got quality players despite their predicament at the moment. But if they go on the charge next weekend, or however they gain it, 3 points hopefully, then all of a sudden, that is huge, and it makes this point better, doesn't it? They end up with 5 points, and it's funny, isn't it? Over the course, they say it's a marathon, not a sprint, but each game is vitally important, isn't it? The difference with the 3 points as well. A negative result next week, and people will be all down in the dumps and despondent about Leicester's chances. A victory, they're looking all right there. Perhaps mid-table safety will be achievable, etc. So, you've got to remain constant throughout the season. But already I am, and I'm sure the players and the manager are looking forward to next week, which is a good sign.
Thank you very much, Matt. Safe travels at home from South London. Mark, we'll let you have the final say for us this afternoon. Really disappointing. Leicester were 2-0 up and have drawn 2-2, but there are so many positives to take. Is that the overall feel, do we think?
I think it is, yeah, and I think as Matt just said there right at the end, I'm already looking forward to next week, and it's another week further where the new players can get settled in. It's been a busy couple of weeks with internationals. A lot of the players have been away, so got a full week now where they can be together, they can train together, the manager can reinforce his ideas, and everyone can get to know each other on that training pitch that little bit more. So already looking forward to next week, and full King Power, hopefully the first win of the season.
Thank you to Mark, to Jerry, and of course to Matt. We've got plenty more coming your way, including that massive game in a week's time, facing off against Everton. That'll be at King Power Stadium, of course. That is a 3 o'clock kickoff. It means we'll be live from 2. If you've not had enough of Mark Albrighton, the latest podcast, Leicester's the Place, is available. He's in conversation with Matt and Jerry about his whole career, not just at Leicester, but of course with a huge focus on his time on Filbert Way. As we said, we'll be back in a week's time for that Everton game. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. To get more reaction to the game with interviews and everything, all you need to do is head onto the app and to the website as well. Goodbye.